This is not just another story. It's a journey filled with betrayal, secrets, and shocking truths you won't believe. So before we dive in, make sure you subscribe and like this video, because every twist will leave you wanting more, and you don't want to miss what happens next. I froze in my tracks the moment I heard it. I was only a few steps away from the back door when my son's voice cut through the quiet evening air. His whisper wasn't soft enough to escape me, and the words he spoke shook my entire soul. "She won't survive much longer." The voice of his wife, Anna, followed right after. "Good. It's better that way. The sooner the better." I felt my heart drop inside my chest. My hands began to tremble so badly I had to grip the old wooden fence to steady myself. My son, my only son, the child I raised with all the love and sacrifice of my life. How could he speak of me like this? How could those words be about me? But the tone in his whisper left no doubt. They weren't talking about a neighbor or some stranger. They were talking about me. I should have left. My feet told me to run, to escape before they noticed I was there. But something inside me, something deep and stubborn, forced me forward. Slowly, with my heart pounding louder than any drum, I pushed open the back door and stepped into the house. The sight I walked into froze my heart. There on the kitchen table, between my son and his wife, lay a folder filled with papers and photographs. But what caught my eyes was not the folder, it was the sharp silver knife Anna held in her hand. She was smiling. And my son was nodding as though they were planning something unspeakable. I opened my mouth to speak, but before I could, Anna's eyes darted toward me. The smile on her lips didn't fade. Instead, it grew wider. "Mother," she said in a voice that felt too calm, too sweet. "We were just talking about you." I stood frozen, unable to breathe. The room spun, and every muscle in my body screamed for me to run. But before I could move, my son looked at me with eyes I had never seen before. Cold. Empty. And that was when I realized I wasn't safe in my own child's house. That night began like any other. I had baked a small apple pie, the kind my son loved when he was a little boy. I thought I'd surprise him and Anna with it. The evening air was cool, the sun dipping below the trees, and I remember humming to myself as I walked down the street toward their home. For years, I believed I was welcome in their house. I had given everything I could to my son. I worked 3 jobs when he was little, just to put food on the table. I went without shoes so he could wear new ones to school. I skipped meals so he could eat enough. I thought all of those sacrifices meant he would always love me. But life has a strange way of showing us truths we don't want to see. When he first married Anna, I tried my best to be supportive. She was different from the women in our town, sharp-tongued, proud, and always dressed as though she were above us all. I noticed she didn't like me much. She would roll her eyes when I spoke, sigh when I tried to help, and whisper things I wasn't meant to hear. Still, I tried. I told myself, if she makes my son happy, then I will make peace with her. But slowly, my son began to change. He stopped visiting me. He stopped calling me mom. He began calling me mother in a tone that felt heavy, distant. Whenever I visited, I felt like a stranger in his home. And yet, I kept coming. Because he was my son. That evening, when I walked into the yard, I wasn't expecting anything unusual. I wasn't expecting to overhear whispers that sounded like death sentences. I wasn't expecting to find the 2 of them in the kitchen, sitting with that knife and folder like a pair of criminals. But life often throws us into storms without warning. "Sit down, Mother," Anna said with that same wide smile. She placed the knife gently on the table, but her hand stayed close to it. My son didn't say a word. He just stared at me, his eyes unreadable. I forced my legs to move, each step heavier than the last. I sat at the edge of the chair opposite them, my apple pie still clutched in my trembling hands. "What were you whispering about?" I asked, my voice thinner than I wanted it to be. "What did you mean? She won't survive much longer." The room fell into silence. Anna leaned forward, resting her chin on her hand. "Oh, Mother, you always imagine the worst. We were talking about your health." "My health?" My heart skipped a beat. "Yes," my son finally spoke. His voice was low, steady. "We're just worried about you. You're not as strong as you used to be. Maybe you don't have much time left." That's all we meant. but his eyes betrayed him. He couldn't hold my gaze. He looked down at the folder on the table. And I knew they were lying. I tried to push the thought away. I tried to believe maybe I had misunderstood. Maybe the whispers weren't about killing me. Maybe the knife was just for dinner. Maybe the folder was just bills. But deep down, I felt it. A mother always knows when danger is close. So I smiled weakly, placed the pie on the table, and said, "I baked this for you." Anna's smile flickered for the first time, and she leaned back. My son didn't touch the pie. He didn't even look at it. Something was terribly wrong. The rest of that evening passed like a blur. They didn't invite me to stay for dinner. They didn't thank me for the pie. They barely spoke to me at all. I sat in silence, pretending not to notice how often Anna's hand brushed against the knife, how often my son avoided looking at me. Finally, I stood up. "I should be going," I said softly. Anna's smile returned. "Yes, you should. Get some rest, mother. Rest is very important at your age." Her words made the hairs on my neck stand. As I walked out of the house, my son followed me to the door. For one brief moment, I thought he might hug me. I thought he might whisper that everything was fine, that he loved me. Instead, he leaned close to my ear and said something that sent a chill deep into my bones. "Don't come back here without calling first." That night, I lay awake in my bed, my mind racing. What was in that folder? Why was the knife placed on the table like that? Why did Anna look so calm, as though she already knew what my future held? I remembered my son's whisper in the yard. "She won't survive much longer." What if they were planning something? What if my own child wanted me gone? I told myself not to think that way. No mother wants to believe her child could harm her. But sometimes, love blinds us to the truth. Days passed, but the feeling wouldn't leave me. I kept hearing the whisper in my head. I kept seeing that smile on Anna's face. I kept remembering the cold look in my son's eyes. And then, just when I thought things couldn't get worse, something happened that proved my fears were not only real, but far more dangerous than I could have ever imagined. One evening, as I returned from the grocery store, I noticed a black car parked outside my little house. Inside, two men sat silently, their faces hidden in the shadows. When I looked closer, my heart nearly stopped. In the driver's seat, I saw my son. And in his hand was the same silver knife. The bag of groceries slipped from my hand and tumbled onto the sidewalk. Apples rolled across the concrete, a loaf of bread split out of its wrapper, and a bottle of milk tipped sideways, spilling cold white liquid over my shoes. But I didn't move. I couldn't. I stood frozen, staring at the black car in front of my little house. The street was quiet, the evening air heavy with a silence that pressed against my chest. And there, inside the car, was my son. My own flesh and blood. He was staring at me. His face was half hidden in the shadows, but I could see the faint gleam of the knife in his hand. That same silver knife I had seen on the kitchen table just days ago. My knees weakened. My throat closed. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. Why was he here? Why was he holding that knife? The passenger window rolled down slowly, and I saw Anna leaning forward. Her eyes were sharp, her smile cold. She whispered something to him, and though I couldn't hear it, I knew it was about me. The car engine started. My son gripped the wheel. And then, just as my heart was about to burst, the car pulled away. Slowly at first, then faster, until the black vehicle disappeared down the street. I stood there for several long minutes, trembling, staring at the empty road as though the car might reappear at any moment. My breath came in short, shaky bursts. The world around me blurred. Finally, my legs gave out, and I sank to my knees among the spilled groceries. Tears burned my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Why? Why would my son want to scare me like that? Or was it more than just fear he wanted? That night, I didn't sleep. I sat by the window with all the lights turned off, watching the street, waiting for that black car to return. Every passing shadow made me jump. Every distant sound felt like footsteps coming closer. My heart wouldn't stop racing. By morning, I felt like a ghost of myself. I looked in the mirror and hardly recognized the woman staring back at me. My eyes were red, my face pale, and deep lines etched across my forehead. But the worst part wasn't my reflection. The worst part was the silence. No call from my son. No explanation. Nothing. I tried to tell myself maybe I had misunderstood. Maybe the knife wasn't meant for me. Maybe they were just driving by. But the whisper I had heard in the yard wouldn't leave my mind. She won't survive much longer. 2 days later, I decided to confront him. I baked another pie, hoping it would soften the mood. My hands trembled as I kneaded the dough, and more than once, I almost dropped the rolling pin. But I forced myself to finish. I wrapped the pie carefully, placed it in a basket, and walked down the familiar road to his house. The entire way there, my heart pounded. My steps slowed the closer I got, and by the time I reached the front door, I felt as though my legs might give out. I knocked. At first, there was no answer. Then, slowly, the door creaked open. Anna stood there. Her eyes widened in mock surprise. "Mother," she said. "What a surprise." Her voice was sweet, but her eyes were sharp. She didn't move aside to let me in. I forced a smile. "I made a pie. For you both." She tilted her head, then finally stepped back. "Come in." The moment I entered, I felt the air change. The house smelled faintly of bleach. The curtains were drawn, leaving the room dim. My son sat in the living room, staring at the television, but when he saw me, he quickly turned it off. "Mother," he said flatly. I placed the pie on the table. My hands were sweating. "I thought I'd come visit. We haven't spoken much lately." His eyes flickered toward Anna, then back to me. He said nothing. The silence stretched until it became unbearable. Finally, I couldn't hold it in anymore. "I saw you," I whispered. "Outside my house. In that black car. With the knife." For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Anna laughed. A short, sharp laugh that sent chills down my spine. "You must be imagining things," she said. "Old age does that sometimes." My son remained silent. His eyes darkened. "I'm not imagining anything," I said, my voice shaking. "Why were you there? What do you want from me?" Anna's smile faded. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Maybe what we want is for you to stop asking so many questions." The tension in the room grew thick. I could feel it pressing against my skin. I wanted to scream, to run, but my feet felt glued to the floor. Finally, my son stood. He walked toward me slowly, his eyes never leaving mine. When he stopped in front of me, he leaned close, his voice low and cold. "Go home, Mother. Go home before you regret staying." My heart stopped. He turned away, leaving me standing there trembling. Anna chuckled under her breath, then walked to the kitchen. I heard the sound of a drawer opening, the clatter of utensils, and then the distinct scrape of a knife being pulled out. She returned, holding the knife loosely in her hand. The same knife. Always the same knife. "Would you like a slice of pie, Mother?" she asked sweetly, her eyes glinting with something I didn't understand. My hands trembled as I grabbed my basket and backed toward the door. I didn't answer. I didn't look back. I just left. That night, I locked every window and door in my house. I sat with the lights off, clutching a small Bible to my chest, whispering prayers into the darkness. But no prayer could stop the images that haunted me. My son's cold eyes. Anna's cruel smile. The glint of that knife. What had happened to my boy? How had the sweet child I raised turned into this stranger who seemed to want me gone? I thought of all the sacrifices I had made. I thought of all the nights I had gone hungry so he could eat. All the times I had worked until my hands bled so he could have new clothes. And now he wanted me gone. The following morning, something strange happened. A letter appeared at my doorstep. No name, no return address. Just a folded piece of paper tucked under the mat. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were only 5 words, written in neat, sharp handwriting. "Do not trust your son." My breath caught in my throat. Who had sent this? How did they know? I looked around the street, but no one was there. Only silence. Only shadows. For the first time in my life, I felt truly alone. But I also knew one thing: whatever was happening was bigger than I thought. Someone else knew the truth. Someone else was warning me. And if I didn't uncover what was really going on soon, I might not live long enough to find out. That evening, as I sat in my living room clutching the mysterious letter, a loud knock shook my front door. I froze. My heart thundered in my chest. Another knock, louder this time. "Mother," a voice called. It was my son. And when I peered through the small crack in the curtain, I saw him standing there on my porch. He wasn't alone. Behind him stood Anna, smiling, holding that silver knife. The pounding on my front door echoed through the house. My heart thudded so loudly it drowned out everything else. "Mother," my son called again, his voice steady, almost calm. But behind that calmness was something I couldn't trust. Anna stood slightly behind him, her hand wrapped around the handle of that silver knife. The same knife that seemed to follow me everywhere. Its gleam caught the dim light from the porch lamp, and I felt as though it were staring at me. I pressed my back against the wall, praying they wouldn't hear my rapid breathing. "Open the door," he said. This time his voice was deeper, firmer. Another knock. Harder. "Mother, we know you're in there." Anna's voice now. Smooth, sharp, like glass cutting through silk. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." I closed my eyes, whispering prayers under my breath. "God, protect me. Please protect me." But then came the sound that nearly made me scream, the jingle of keys. Keys. My son had a spare to my house. He had kept it for years, back when I trusted him completely. Back when he was still my sweet boy. The lock clicked. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over the edge of the rug. My legs refused to move fast enough, but somehow I made it into the kitchen. My hands fumbled for the drawer, pulling it open, searching desperately for something, anything I could use to protect myself. The door creaked open. Their footsteps echoed down the hallway. "Mother," my son called again, his voice closer now. "We just want to talk." I gripped the handle of an old rolling pin, my knuckles white, my arms trembling. My breaths came in shallow gasps, my body cold with fear. Then they entered the kitchen. Anna smiled first. That same chilling smile. Her hand still held the knife, dangling casually at her side, as though she carried it the way other women carried purses. My son stood beside her. His eyes locked on me. But there was no warmth in them. No love. Just emptiness. "Why are you doing this?" I whispered, my voice breaking. "I'm your mother. I gave you everything." For a moment, I thought I saw something flicker in his eyes, hesitation, maybe even guilt. But it vanished just as quickly as it came. Anna stepped forward. "Don't make this harder, Mother. The sooner you accept it, the easier it will be for everyone." "Accept what?" I asked, my grip tightening on the rolling pin. "That you won't survive much longer," she said with a laugh. "Just like we told you." The words struck me like a blade straight to the heart. My knees shook so badly I thought they would collapse under me. "Why?" I asked again, tears filling my eyes. "Why would you do this to me?" Anna's smile widened. She looked at my son. "Do you want to tell her? Or should I?" He didn't answer. His silence was louder than any words. Suddenly, the sound of tires screeched outside. Headlights cut across the window, flooding the room with bright white light. All three of us froze. Then came a loud knock. Not on the front door this time, but on the window. "Mrs. Parker," a voice called. A man's voice. Firm, commanding. My heart leapt. Someone knew. Someone was here. Anna hissed under her breath and quickly shoved the knife into her purse. My son ran a hand over his face, muttering a curse. The knock came again. "Mrs. Parker, are you all right? We need to talk." I looked toward the window. A man stood there, tall, wearing a dark coat and hat. His face was hidden by the shadows, but something about him seemed official. Anna grabbed my arm roughly, her nails digging into my skin. "Not a word," she whispered fiercely. "Say nothing or you'll regret it." My heart raced so fast I thought it would burst. The man outside knocked again. "We have something important for you." I wanted to scream for help. I wanted to run to the window and beg the stranger to save me. But Anna's grip on my arm tightened, and my son stepped closer, his towering frame blocking my path. "Mother," he whispered coldly. "Don't do anything stupid." For several seconds, the house was filled with nothing but silence. My breaths came shallow and sharp. The stranger outside tapped the glass again, but this time softer, almost like a warning. Finally, his footsteps retreated. The sound of a car engine roared, and then the headlights disappeared. Anna released my arm, shoving me back into the chair. I gasped, rubbing the red marks on my skin where her nails had dug in. "You see, Mother," she said smoothly. "No one can help you. Not your neighbors. Not strangers. Not even God. It's just us now. And we decide how this ends." The room seemed to shrink around me. The walls pressed closer. The air grew heavier. My son sat across from me, his face unreadable. Anna circled me slowly, like a predator circling prey. The knife flashed briefly as she slid it back out of her purse, twirling it between her fingers. My hands gripped the rolling pin tighter. I knew I couldn't match her strength, but it was the only thing keeping me from feeling completely powerless. Finally, I forced the words out. "If you hurt me, the truth will come out. People will know." Anna laughed. "Oh, Mother. No one cares about the truth. People only believe what we tell them. And trust me, we'll make sure they believe you are just unlucky." Her words cut deeper than any blade. I turned to my son, desperate. "David, please," I whispered, calling him by his name. "You're my son. I carried you for 9 months. I raised you alone. Every scar on my hands is from working for you. Please don't do this." For a brief second, his jaw tightened. His eyes glistened, just barely, like he was fighting something deep inside. But Anna leaned close to him, whispering in his ear. Whatever she said, it hardened his face again. He turned away from me. And in that moment, I felt my heart break into pieces. Hours seemed to crawl by as they kept me in that chair. I didn't know what they were waiting for, or why they hadn't done anything yet. The house was silent, except for the faint ticking of the clock on the wall. Finally, Anna set the knife down on the table and leaned in close to me. "It's late, Mother. Maybe we should let you rest, for now." Her smile chilled me to the bone. They led me to my own bedroom, but it didn't feel like mine anymore. Anna stood in the doorway, holding the knife like a guard holding a weapon. My son stayed silent, his shadow stretching across the floor. "Good night, Mother," Anna whispered. "Sleep well. It may be your last peaceful night." She closed the door. The sound of the lock clicking echoed like thunder in my ears. I was trapped. The darkness of my room felt heavier than usual. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of the wind outside made me jump. I sat on the bed, clutching the mysterious letter I had hidden in my pocket. "Do not trust your son." Those words burned in my mind. Who had written them? How did they know what was happening? Suddenly, a faint noise broke the silence. Tap, tap. It was coming from the window. I rushed to it, pulling the curtain aside. And there, in the shadows outside, stood the same man in the dark coat. The one who had knocked earlier. He pressed a finger to his lips, signaling me to stay quiet. Then he held up a piece of paper against the glass. I squinted, my heart pounding. The paper had 4 words written in thick black ink. "They want your will." I gasped, my hand flying to my mouth. The man's eyes darted behind him as though someone might catch him. He tapped the paper again, then pointed toward the street before disappearing into the night. I stood frozen, the words seared into my mind. "They want your will." Suddenly, everything began to make sense. The whispers. The knife. The coldness in my son's eyes. This wasn't about hate. This wasn't even about Anna's dislike of me. It was about greed. And they were willing to kill me for it. But before I could even process it, the sound of footsteps thundered down the hallway. The lock on my door rattled violently. "Mother!" Anna's voice screamed from the other side. "Who are you talking to?" My heart nearly stopped. She knew. She must have heard something. The door shook harder, her fists pounding against it. My son's voice joined hers, low and angry. "Open the door," he shouted. "Now!" I stumbled back, clutching the rolling pin with one hand and the letter with the other. The lock clicked. The knob twisted. The door slowly began to open. And there, in the crack of the doorway, I saw the glint of the silver knife. The knob turned slowly, the door creaked, and I saw the thin line of light stretch across my floor. My breath caught in my throat. My hands clutched the rolling pin so tightly that my fingers ached. "Mother," Anna's voice hissed through the crack. "Why did you close the curtain? Who are you talking to?" I said nothing. My chest rose and fell like a hammer pounding against my ribs. The door opened wider, and the blade of the silver knife gleamed in the faint light. Anna's hand pushed through first, followed by her cold eyes, darting across the room like a snake searching for prey. Behind her stood my son, David. His face was harder now, less hesitant, more resolved. "Mother," he said, his tone low and cold. "We need to talk." I shook my head, backing away until my legs hit the edge of the bed. "Stay away from me," I whispered, my voice cracking. Anna smirked, stepping inside. "We told you already, this is easier if you don't fight." I raised the rolling pin, my arms trembling. "Don't come any closer." For a brief moment, Anna stopped. Her eyes widened slightly, then she laughed. A cruel, sharp laugh. "What are you going to do with that, Mother? Bake us to death?" David stepped inside then, closing the door behind him. The sound of the lock clicking into place made my heart pound even harder. "Please," I begged, turning to my son. "David, look at me. I'm your mother. Please, don't let her do this. Don't let her turn you against me." For the first time that night, he hesitated. His eyes met mine, and I saw something flicker: guilt, pain, maybe even love. His jaw tightened, and for a second, I thought he might drop the act. But Anna's voice sliced through the tension. "Tell her the truth, David," she said coldly. "Tell her why this has to happen." He turned away, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's the will, Mother. We know you've been planning to leave everything to the church. Anna found the papers. If you sign it, we'll be left with nothing. Do you really want to give strangers everything you've worked for instead of your own son?" I froze. The will. The letter from the stranger. They want your will. My knees weakened. I gripped the rolling pin tighter to stop from falling. "I didn't raise you for this," I whispered. "I gave you my life, my blood, my sweat. And you would kill me for money." He flinched at my words, his eyes softening for a heartbeat. But Anna cut in quickly. "She's lying," Anna sneered. "She'll change it back if she lives long enough. You know she doesn't trust you. If you want your share, it has to be done now." The knife gleamed as she stepped closer. I swung the rolling pin wildly, the wooden thud echoing as it hit the doorframe. Anna jumped back, laughing again. "Oh, Mother," she said mockingly. "You've still got fight in you. Good. It'll make this interesting." The room seemed smaller and smaller as they moved closer. My mind raced, searching for a way out. The window. It was the only chance. I darted toward it, yanking the curtain aside and fumbling with the lock. My hands shook so badly I could hardly grip it. "Mother." David's voice boomed. "Don't." But I shoved the window up anyway, the cold night air rushing in. Just as I tried to climb through, Anna lunged forward, grabbing the back of my dress and yanking me down hard onto the floor. The rolling pin flew from my hand and rolled under the bed. I screamed, thrashing wildly as her grip dug into me. My son stood frozen for a moment, his face twisted with conflict. "Help me, David," I cried out. "Don't let her do this." But he didn't move. Anna pinned me to the floor, the knife raised high. Her breath was hot against my face as she hissed, "Say goodbye, Mother." I closed my eyes, praying this wasn't the end. But then, bang! The sound of the front door slamming open shook the house. Heavy footsteps stormed down the hallway. "Police," a voice shouted. "Drop the weapon." Anna froze, her eyes wide with shock. David stumbled backward, his face pale. Two officers burst into the room, guns raised, their flashlights blinding me. "Step away from her," one of them barked. Anna slowly lowered the knife, her smile faltering for the first time. "This is a misunderstanding," she said smoothly. "She's confused. She attacked us." "On the ground now," the officer commanded. David raised his hands shakily. Anna hesitated, then dropped the knife onto the floor with a clatter. The officers moved quickly, pinning them both to the wall and cuffing their hands behind their backs. My son didn't resist. Anna cursed under her breath, glaring at me with pure hatred. "Are you all right, ma'am?" one of the officers asked, helping me to my feet. My legs trembled so badly I could barely stand. I don't understand. How did you know? The officer glanced at his partner, then back at me. We received an anonymous tip. Someone said you were in danger. Anonymous tip. My mind flashed back to the stranger in the dark coat. The letter. The warning. He had called the police. He was the reason I was still alive. But before I could ask more, Anna screamed from where she was pinned. You think this is over? You think this old woman has won? You don't know anything. Her voice echoed through the room as the officers dragged her and David toward the door. I sank onto the bed, my body shaking, tears streaming down my face. Relief washed over me, but so did pain. My own son. My own flesh and blood. How could he? Hours later, after the police left with them, I sat alone in the silence of my house. The adrenaline had faded, leaving me with nothing but exhaustion and sorrow. I thought it was over. I thought I was safe. But as I walked toward the kitchen, something caught my eye. The window was slightly open. On the sill sat another folded piece of paper. My heart skipped a beat. My hands shook as I picked it up and unfolded it. There were only 3 words written this time, in the same sharp handwriting as before. It's not over. The paper slipped from my hands. My knees gave way and I sank to the floor, staring at those words as a cold dread spread through my body. Because deep down I knew the truth. Anna wasn't finished. And somehow, she would be back. The house was quiet, but the silence no longer comforted me. It felt heavy, almost alive. I sat on the kitchen floor, staring at the note that said, "It's not over." My heart beat so hard I thought it might burst. Who had left it there? Anna was in police custody. David too. The officers had driven them away. I had seen it with my own eyes. But the note was real. Someone had been at my window. Someone close enough to reach into my home. The stranger in the dark coat. He had saved me, but now his warning filled me with terror. Was he friend or foe? I pressed the paper to my chest, whispering into the empty air. Why me? Why my own son? Tears burned my cheeks. I wanted to collapse and never rise again, but something inside me refused. I had survived too much to stop fighting now. The next morning, I forced myself to face the daylight. The sun shone bright, as if the world outside hadn't crumbled. I walked to the police station. My steps were slow, but my voice was steady when I spoke to the officer at the desk. I need to know about my son and his wife, I said. Anna and David. The officer typed into his computer, then looked up with a puzzled frown. They were released last night, he said. My knees nearly gave out. Released? How? Why? He shrugged. Insufficient evidence. The knife had no prints. Your son claimed you attacked them first. His wife backed it up. Without witnesses or injuries, we couldn't hold them. I staggered back, gripping the desk to steady myself. My voice came out in a broken whisper. You let them go? The officer sighed. Ma'am, we'll increase patrols near your house. But legally, our hands are tied. I left the station in a fog, my mind spinning. They were free. They could come back any moment. And the note was right. It wasn't over. That night, I barely slept. Every sound made me jump. Every shadow on the wall felt like it was moving closer. At midnight, I heard it. The crunch of footsteps outside my window. I froze, clutching the phone, ready to dial the police. But then a voice whispered through the glass. Don't call them. I recognized it instantly. The stranger. The man in the dark coat. My breath hitched. Who are you? I asked, my voice shaking. He didn't answer the question. Instead, he said, they're not finished. They'll come for you again. But this time, you'll be ready. I frowned, clutching the curtain. Why are you helping me? There was a pause. Then, in a low voice, he said, because I know what it's like to be betrayed by family. Before I could say another word, his footsteps retreated into the night. I was left staring at the dark window, more confused than ever. Who was he? What did he want from me? But one thing was clear, my nightmare was far from over. The next morning, I made a decision. I wouldn't run. I wouldn't hide. I would fight. I searched the house for anything I could use. Heavy pans. Scissors. Even a rusty old hammer from the shed. I lined them up like weapons ready for battle. Then I called a lawyer. I told him to change my will immediately. Every penny, every inch of property would go to charity. David and Anna would get nothing. The lawyer's voice shook. Are you sure, ma'am? This could make them angrier. I closed my eyes. They already want me dead. At least this way, if they succeed, they get nothing. For the first time in days, I felt a spark of strength. That evening, the storm came. Thunder rolled across the sky, shaking the windows. Rain poured in heavy sheets, drumming against the roof. I sat in the living room, every light on, clutching the hammer in my lap. And then, I heard it. The back door creaking open. My stomach twisted. My hand shook. Shadows moved across the hallway. Footsteps. 2 sets. Mother, David's voice. Smooth. Cold. Too calm. We just want to talk. Anna's laugh followed. Yes, let's talk, shall we? They were back. I rose slowly, gripping the hammer so tightly it cut into my skin. I know why you're here, I said, my voice trembling but loud. But you won't win. Not tonight. David stepped into the light. His clothes were wet from the rain. His face looked tired, but his eyes were sharp. Mother, don't make this harder than it has to be. Anna appeared behind him, her knife glinting again. She's stubborn. Let's finish this. I raised the hammer. Stay back. David took a step forward. Please, put that down. You'll hurt yourself. I shook my head, tears streaming down my face. No, David. You hurt me the day you chose her over me. For the first time, his face cracked with pain. He hesitated, but Anna shoved him forward. Do it. Now. Before he could move, lightning flashed and the front door burst open. The stranger. He stormed inside, his dark coat dripping with rain, his eyes blazing. In his hand, he held a gun. Enough, he roared. This ends tonight. Anna gasped, stumbling back. David froze, his hands shaking. Who are you? Anna screamed. The stranger's eyes never left them. The man who won't let you destroy her. David swallowed hard. Why? She's not your family. The stranger's voice broke slightly. No, but she reminds me of mine. And I won't watch another innocent suffer. The room fell silent, the storm raging outside. Then Anna screamed and lunged forward, the knife raised. Bang! The gunshot rang through the house. Anna dropped the knife. Her knees buckled, and she collapsed onto the floor, clutching her shoulder where blood spread across her dress. David fell to his knees beside her, shouting her name. The stranger stepped closer, the gun steady in his hand. It's over, David. Choose now. Stay with her and follow her to prison, or walk away and save yourself. David looked at me, his eyes wide, filled with tears. Mother. My heart cracked. Part of me wanted to run to him, to forgive, to hold him like the little boy I once rocked to sleep. But then I remembered the knife. The betrayal. The words in the backyard, why is she even still alive? I turned away, my tears falling. David's face crumpled. He bowed his head. When the police arrived minutes later, called by the stranger, David didn't resist. He let them take him away. Anna screamed and cursed, but the wound weakened her. She was dragged out too. And once again, I was left in silence. Days later, I sat by the window, watching the sunrise. My house was quiet again, but this time, it felt different. Not heavy, not haunted, just mine. The stranger came one last time. He stood by the porch, his coat fluttering in the wind. Who are you really? I asked softly. He smiled sadly. Someone who lost his mother the way you almost were lost. I couldn't save her, but I saved you. Tears blurred my vision. Thank you. He nodded, then turned and walked into the morning light. I never saw him again, but I never forgot him. And as the sun rose higher, I whispered to myself, it's over. At last, it's over. Yet deep inside, I knew the scars would never fade. Because sometimes, the greatest betrayal doesn't come from enemies, but from the people you love the most. Life lessons for this story. Greed can destroy families, but love and honesty build them stronger. Sometimes the deepest wounds come from the ones we love the most. Protect your peace. Betrayal teaches us that blood isn't always family, loyalty is. When people show you who they are, believe them the first time. Strength isn't about fighting others, it's about refusing to let their evil break you. Forgiveness is powerful, but never let forgiveness blind you to danger. Peace is priceless. Protect it, even if it means letting go of those you once loved. Not everyone by your side wants the best for you. Choose wisely who you trust. Sometimes survival means standing alone, and that's okay. Love should heal, not hurt. Real family never plots your downfall. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe. Your support means everything and keeps more powerful stories like this coming.